Hi everyone, I'm Pat Prokop, and I'm out here in the Heavenly Backyard Garden. This is Saturday, March 11th, and we've had a fantastic late winter weather-wise in our garden here. Temperatures warmed into the 80s many a times. That's in the 20s, mid to upper 20s in some cases for all you Celsius fans. But anyway, with that warm temperatures, the soils have warmed up and the garden has started to grow. And the lilies are showing fantastic growth right now and very healthy growth. I've been working on the daylilies, feeding them a mixture of 12-4-8 fertilizer. Now, a little bit later on in the spring, I'm going to give them a dose of milorganite, which is a high nitrogen compound that will really help with the greening up of the garden and boosting those scapes getting ready to bloom. You know, during the month of May and June out here in the Heavenly Backyard Garden, that's where it gets its name. It is so beautiful with all the daylilies, and then the dahlias are beginning to bloom. I have an amaryllis garden over here with daffodils and jonquils already beginning to bloom, but the amaryllis and the agapanthus, or the lily of the Nile, they'll be blooming in May and June coming up as well. Actually, they'll start in April, May, and June. I'll get blooms out of those. But also, my concern at this time is the vegetable garden. And let's take a look at what's going on in the Heavenly Backyard vegetable garden. Remember early February, I planted these potatoes right here, and they are now up and still growing. They got about another 6 weeks or so to go before I'll be digging up red potatoes, hopefully by around Mother's Day. And right next to them I have some head lettuce, and the lettuce likes the cool weather as well. You want to get ahead of the heat because lettuce, they don't like the heat at all. They prefer the cool spring weather. Plus, another advantage, usually during the spring months, you don't have the insects and butterflies laying their eggs on the plants, and hence the caterpillars being born. And with that, you don't end up with those religious leaves. Holy. Now over here, I planted wax beans, and I had just put the plants in the ground about 2.5 weeks ago. And you can see at the moment they are coming up. These are wax beans. They're a bush bean, but they do like a little extra support. And they are not that far away from blooming. I would imagine within about 10 to 14 days, I'll start getting blooms on these plants right here. And then the beans themselves will be ready in about 3 weeks after that. So late April, I'm hoping to be picking some wax beans right here in the Heavenly Backyard Garden. But what about the cauliflower and the Brussels sprouts? Also, I planted some squash. Let's take a look. On the other side of the beans, I have my zucchini squash over here. I got the cauliflower over here. And a little bit further up, I have some cucumbers up and running over here. And the cucumbers, they don't like really cold weather. And we might be getting some really cold weather this week. And if needed, I can cover these up with a sheet, and that should protect them. It's not going to get below freezing, but it's going to get cold. But the cauliflower and the Brussels sprouts, they don't mind it at all. They prefer cool weather, not cold, but they prefer the cool weather. And the zucchini squash, well, yeah, it doesn't like cold weather either. So if necessary, I'll be covering these plants up as well. But they're doing rather well at the time. They're showing some very healthy growth. I put in a lot of compost. Remember that compost heap I showed you last time? Well, a lot of that came in to here, and these plants are definitely responding to that compost. And the Brussels sprouts, look at them. They're doing just fine right now. Wilting a little bit in the afternoon sunshine right now, but they're doing very well. Now the potatoes I planted a little bit after the ones in the front, and these are just popping their heads out of the ground. I planted these 3 weeks ago, and as you can see, they are just coming out of the ground right now. And I hope to have potatoes here about a week to 2 weeks after Mother's Day. And then on the other side over here, I got the green beans that I planted. These are a bush green bean, and they'll do very well in this spot right here. Again, looks like they're already responding to all that compost I put in there from the back. Speaking of compost, let's take a look at the new compost pile. You hear that? That's the sound of green. That's my neighbor tilling up his garden, getting ready to plant. He's got all kinds of vegetables to plant in his garden as well, and he is getting it ready right now. Meanwhile, let's go over to the compost heap. I dug out a lot of compost from this heap over the last couple of weeks and moved them all throughout the garden. And it's hard to beat really good compost. And as I mentioned in my last video, a good compost pile is beneficial for the garden as long as you don't use meat. Use any kind of green scraps, kitchen leftovers, leaves, grass clippings, all that work well in the compost pile. And the results, this all right here, used to be leaves. Look at that. Breaks down into not dirt, but soil. And the compost heap right now, I'm starting up already, and I got some grass clippings and ground up leaves from the mower, and I just mix these in, and I'll occasionally throw a little bit of this extra old compost on there. And that's actually beneficial because composting, you need bacteria to help break down the vegetation. And the bacteria is right here in the soil below. So mix in a little what's called brown with the green, except in this case it's black with the green. And that helps the compost pile break down that much faster. And if it's too dry, add a little bit of water. But lately we've been beneficial with the rains here in the Heavenly Backyard Garden. Now over here is one of my dahlia gardens. I use these tomato hoops to help hold up the plants. And the dahlias usually sleep underground during the winter months. Here in the Heavenly Backyard Garden, I really don't have to dig them up during the winter months because it doesn't get that cold. However, this year we did have 5 nights in a row where the temperature did drop down in the 20 degree Fahrenheit region. And that may have, I don't know, bitten some of the dahlias. But the dahlias, they're kind of smart. They don't come up until it's really warm enough. I do see one coming up right now, but usually my dahlias don't start coming up until the end of March and early April. But this is a dahlia tuber, and they're not bulbs, they're tubers. And with a dahlia, you want to make sure you have the stem connected to these tubers right here. And the actual plant will be coming out of these ends over here, kind of like a potato. Not exactly like it, but kind of like a potato. And you just plant the dahlia in the ground when ready, when the ground is warm, or you can jumpstart them in the greenhouse if you have a greenhouse or a warm room, and just lightly cover them up with like a peat moss type material, and just keep it evenly moist but not wet. And they'll start growing, and once they start growing, get them out in the sunshine as quickly as you can so they don't get leggy, and then get ready to put them in the ground and enjoy the dahlia flowers throughout the summer months. I tell you, the dahlias out in the Heavenly Backyard Garden, they bloom from May through October in many instances. I have a lot of blooms, particularly in the month of June, July, and August. You see the solar panels up there, they're covered with pollen right now, but they're still producing electricity. And, you know, plants are much like solar panels. Their leaves are like little miniature solar panels where they collect the energy from the sun and convert it into food. Now look at, I want to show you something. Look at this. You know what that is? That's my electric meter going backwards. I'm feeding electricity out to the grid right now, and the Georgia Power is actually buying my electricity that I'm not using. Isn't that nice? Now over here, I have some tomatoes that I started from seed, and I planted them in the ground about 2 weeks ago. And again, compost, and look how green they are. They're doing very well. Again, if it gets too cold, I got sheets I can put over these to protect them. But I'm already getting some small tomatoes showing up. These are called better bush, and the better bush, they get the size of about tennis ball size to baseball size. Occasionally, you'll get a softball sized tomato. But these are, in my opinion, one of the best tasting tomatoes around. I know there's other tomatoes that taste great, but it still beats eating red cardboard. You can't beat homegrown tomatoes, I tell you. You gotta have homegrown tomatoes. If you can't grow them, be friends with somebody who does. Well, I hope you enjoyed this view of the garden for the becoming the middle portions of March right now. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. That's very important because the YouTube algorithm seems to like people hitting that like button, and it helps push out the videos to others. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you subscribe to my channel to give you updates to your email account. Whenever I post new videos, you'll be updated and letting you know that the videos are there. Also, besides the garden, on this channel I produce a lot of weather videos. I try to do a weather video at least once a week now, particularly during the active months, and if it gets even more active, I'll be posting even more videos. And I can go live now on this channel with weather information. If we have severe weather moving across the region, I can now go live on YouTube with that, and then that live broadcast will be recorded, and then you can watch it later if you missed the live actual broadcast itself. But again, the garden is looking great right now. I'm just having so much fun out here in the garden itself. And I do have my telescopes out here, but they're covered up right now because I got more rain coming tonight. You know, the sky is blue right now, but by sunset tonight, the clouds are going to be back. So I'll have to keep those telescopes covered. I think I might be able to uncover them by the middle of next week. So if you like astronomy, visit my Heavenly Backyard Astronomy channel. If you like weather and gardening, stay right here on my Heavenly Backyard Garden, Pat's Weather and Nature page. This is the nature aspect of my weather and nature page. So see you next time right here on YouTube.